generation ago, middle-class families were able to put away enough money during their working years to make it through their later years with dignity. On average, they saved about 11% of their take-home pay while working. Many paid off their homes, got rid of all their debts, and retired with strong pensions from their employers. And when pensions, savings, and investments fell short, they could rely on Social Security to make up the difference. That was the story a generation ago, but since that time, the retirement landscape has shifted dramatically against our families. Among working families on the verge of retirement, about a third have no retirement savings of any kind, and another third have total savings that are less than a year's annual income. Many seniors have seen their housing wealth shrink as well. According to AARP, in 2012, 1 out of every 7 older homeowners was paying down a mortgage that was higher than the value of their house. 2 decades ago, more than a third of all private sector workers, 35%, had traditional defined benefit pensions, pensions that guaranteed a certain monthly payment that retirees knew they could depend on. Today, that number has been cut in half. Only 18% of private sector workers have defined benefit pensions. Employers have replaced guaranteed retirement income with savings plans like 401k plans that leave the retiree at the mercy of a market that rises and falls, and sometimes at the mercy of dangerous investment products. These plans often fall short of what retirees need, and nearly half of all American workers don't even have access to those limited plans. With tens of millions more financially stressed as they approach retirement, with more and more people left out of the private retirement security system, and with the economic security of our families unraveling, Social Security is rapidly becoming the only lifeline that millions of seniors have to keep their heads above water. And yet, instead of taking on the retirement crisis, instead of strengthening Social Security, some in Washington are fighting to cut benefits. Just this morning, the Washington Post ran an editorial mocking the idea of a looming retirement crisis. To make sure that no one missed the point, they even put the words retirement crisis in quotation marks. No retirement crisis? Tell that to the millions of Americans who are facing retirement without a pension. Tell that to the millions of Americans who have nothing to fall back on except Social Security. There is a $6.6 trillion gap between what Americans under 65 are currently saving and what they need to maintain their standard of living when they hit retirement. $6.6 trillion. And that assumes that Social Security benefits aren't cut. Make no mistake, there is a crisis. The most recent discussion about cutting benefits has focused on something called the chain CPI. Supporters of the chain CPI say it's a more accurate way of measuring the cost of living increases for seniors. This statement is simply not true. Chain CPI falls far short of the actual increases in costs that seniors face. Pure and simple. Chain CPI, it's just a fancy way to say cut benefits. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has developed a measure of the real impact of inflation on seniors. It's called the CPI-E, and if we adopt it today, it would generally increase the benefits for our retirees, not cut them. Social Security isn't the answer for all of our retirement problems. We need to find a way to tackle the financial squeeze that is crushing our families. We need to help families start saving again. We need to make sure that more workers have access to better pensions. But in the meantime, so long as these problems continue to exist and so long as we are in the midst of a real and growing retirement crisis, a crisis that is shaking the foundations of what was once a vibrant and secure middle class, the absolute last thing we want to do is cut Social Security benefits. The absolute last thing we should do in 2013, at the very moment that Social Security has become the principal lifeline for millions of our seniors, is allow the program to be dismantled inch by inch. Mr. President, the conversation about retirement and Social Security benefits is not a conversation just about math. At its core, this is a conversation about our values. It is a conversation about who we are as a country and who we are as a people. I believe we honor our promises. We make good on a system that millions of people paid into faithfully throughout their working years. And we support the right of every person to retire with dignity.